In 2009, goalkeeping legends like Iker Casillas, Gianluigi Buffon, and Petr Cech were at the absolute primes of their career with peak athleticism, acrobatics, and reactions. Watching them defend the goal at the height of their powers was truly incredible. However, as legendary as those all-time great goalkeepers were, some of you might find it hard to believe that the goalkeeper who took all the attention that year was actually a 40-year-old goalkeeper. That's right, you didn't hear me wrong. A guy who was nearly twice as old as Manuel Neuer at the time would break records left and right, completely stunning football fans throughout the world. But for other footballing professionals at the top though, as crazy as it sounds, they weren't exactly all that surprised. After all, it only made sense when that old man goalkeeper just happened to be named Edwin Van der Sar. At 40 years old, he would set a world record for the most time without conceding a single goal. An insane 1,311 minutes before a football would ever get past him. And in case you have a little difficulty comprehending those numbers, that resulted in another record-breaking 14 consecutive clean sheets, the most recorded by any goalkeeper in football history. In fact, that very same season, he would maintain a total of 21 clean sheets and become the oldest goalkeeper to ever win the Premier League Golden Glove, UEFA's Goalkeeper of the Year award, and Europe's Best Goalkeeper. But that's not even the most surprising thing about Van der Sar's career, because for those who don't know, this might blow your mind. Let's put this into perspective. David De Gea is Manchester United's most capped goalkeeper, staying with the club for an incredible 12 years. And well, despite how the club did kind of do him dirty, leaving him as a free agent for the entire season until he finally signed with Fiorentina not too long ago, at the current age of 34. Well, Edwin Van der Sar didn't sign with Manchester United and become a Red Devil until he was at the ripe young age of 35. Yeah, you heard that right, 35. And Sir Alex Ferguson would only spend a total of €2 million for one of the greatest goalkeepers in football history. And as cheap as that might sound, they actually paid double the price than they really should have. Because before moving to Man United, Van der Sar played with Fulham. And he loved that club and their fans so much that instead of his contract running out and Man United stealing him for pennies, he would decide to sign with the cottage club just a single season longer for the sole purpose that Fulham could sell him for a higher fee and to get some extra revenue. But if that story doesn't only speak to the character of Edwin Van der Sar, it also goes to serve that people only really know him for his time at United. But the legendary career of this all-time goalkeeper goes much more than just those relatively brief 6 seasons at United. Van der Sar has been a world-class goalkeeper from the very beginning. Because growing up in the Netherlands, a country with one of the highest average heights in the world, at around 183 centimeters or almost 6'1", comparatively, even the young Van der Sar was a giant, standing at 198 centimeters or 6'6" with a skinny frame and pale skin tone. People would start to give him the nickname of Scarecrow. But despite being a size that would make the goal look smaller than it actually was, he had incredible reflexes and acrobatic athleticism. That's why Louis van Gaal himself would reach out all the way to his amateur 3rd division club just to sign him on to Ajax. Because by the age of 22, Van der Sar had already broken into the first team and was regularly appearing as their starting goalkeeper. And Van Gaal would trust him so much that he would put Van der Sar in front of goal for their biggest campaigns, where Ajax would lift the Champions League title in 1995, and Van der Sar would win the Best Goalkeeper in Europe award at just 24 years old. The next season, he and Ajax would even make it back to the Champions League final once more. And despite losing to Juventus in penalty shootouts, Van der Sar was so dominant at defending the goalpost that he would be named the Dutch Goalkeeper of the Year for an insane 4 consecutive seasons from 1994 all the way to 1997. In his 6 seasons as an undisputed starter for Ajax, Van der Sar had already conquered Dutch football completely, winning 4 Eredivisie titles, 3 Dutch Cups, 3 Dutch Super Cups, and 1 Champions League title. Hilariously enough, the only achievement left to do as a goalkeeper was to score a goal, which Ajax would actually let him do, as he would score the only goal of his entire career off of a penalty during his last season with the club. Now he was really done with Dutch football and would take the next step in his career. So imagine this, in their over 100-year-long history, Juventus has never once had a non-Italian player defending their goal. But they were willing to break over a century-long tradition, all for the 28-year-old Van der Sar. And if that's not a testament to how good he was, I don't know what is. But ironically, his time in Italy would be the only time in his career that his once untouchable reputation would be questioned. Because under his 2 seasons with Carlo Ancelotti, although statistically they had the best defense in the league, with by far the least goals conceded, they would lose the 1999-2000 Serie A title by just a single point, with only conceding a total of 20 goals. By all means, Van der Sar did a fantastic job. Sure, they could have scored more goals to win more matches. He did everything he could. That being said though, Juve fans would channel all the blame towards him. Because during the literal final match of the season, Van der Sar would get beat on a volley, conceding his 20th goal for the season and allowing Lazio to overtake Juve for the Serie A title. And the very next season, they would once more finish runner-ups by just 2 points. And again, despite having the best defense in the league, being the only club to concede less than 30 goals, Van der Sar would once again take all the blame, as he would have another high-profile blunder as his deflection would result in a tie with Roma, allowing Juventus to once again lose the Serie A title. Juve would eventually break transfer records to sign Buffon, and Van der Sar would leave Italy with a quote-unquote disappointing run. Although he was basically incredibly solid altogether, his brilliance was overshadowed by those 2 single moments, and many clubs seemingly forgot just how good he could be. For goalkeepers, especially back then, you weren't defined by your brilliance or consistency, but instead, your mistakes. And even though he also conceded 0 goals for Netherlands in the 2000 Euros, only being eliminated in penalty shootouts in the semi-final against Italy because the Dutch penalty takers couldn't convert. It's like everyone had amnesia and forgot just how quality he was. That's why instead of joining another massive club, it would sort of come as a surprise that he would sign with a club that had just been newly promoted in the Premier League, Fulham. They were a much weaker side than Van der Sar was used to, and because they kept getting scored on and finished season after season near the bottom of the table, Van der Sar would slowly move out of the spotlight. However, he grew to quickly love the club and its fans, saying that they had the nicest and friendliest atmosphere he's ever been around in his career thus far. But many who never watched Fulham would slowly start to forget about Van der Sar throughout the years. Because no matter how good the goalkeeper is, prime Oliver Kahn, Neuer, Buffon, Casillas, Lev Yashin, you name it, without a strong defense or midfield, you're gonna get scored on a lot. And after 4 seasons already in his mid-30s, Van der Sar's popularity was but a fraction of what it was back in his days at Ajax. But there was one man who never forgot his quality. A man who recognized that it was because of Van der Sar that Fulham would only lose 0-2 instead of 0-5. And his name was Sir Alex Ferguson. And he understood that even at 35 years old, Van der Sar was still world class. Once more with a quality midfield and defense to support him, the chances of a ball ever getting past Van der Sar was about to get significantly lower. And this was also a time when football was shifting to a more televised sport. Better picture on television, more abundant viewings, and easier access to watch for global fans. And now, playing for one of the most popular clubs in the world, his goalkeeping greatness would really be on display for the first time to many newer and more casual fans. Because what made the nearly 2-meter goalkeeping giant truly hard to score on was a combination of surprising speed, reflexes, positioning, and composure. Whether it was a point-blank or long-range strike, for his size, his reaction speed was extraordinary. And when you see a guy of his size being able to leap acrobatically, using his full wingspan to cover every corner of the goal, trying to get the ball past Van der Sar was a challenge. And as far as elite athletes come, despite his age, Van der Sar's reaction time was among the best in the world. It didn't matter if it was a knuckleball that was swerving, an unintended deflection from a defender's foot, or whatever sudden strike was headed his way. He had the reflexes to react instantly. But without a doubt, one of the most underrated parts of Van der Sar's game was his composure. If he was being hard pressed by the opposition, it didn't matter. He could stay calm and get the ball out of the way. and on one-on-one situations, you would never see him panic. Of course, occasionally he would get beat, but more often than not, he knew exactly what to do. Plus, the way that he could distribute the ball to his defenders and to some extent even his midfielders directly made Manchester United an even more terrifying squad, as they could avoid the press by giving the ball to Van der Sar, and he could advance the ball with his incredible passing. But of course, his composure was on display most during high-pressure penalty situations. Some people might call Robin van Persie the Flying Dutchman for his goal against Spain in the 2014 World Cup. But just remember, the original Flying Dutchman nickname was born from United fans watching Van der Sar in action. But seeing how good at goalkeeping he was, you might think he trained all the time. But hilariously, when he moved to United at 35, his teammates had this to say about him in training.
And he would come out to training only probably 3 days a week, right? And I remember on Friday sometimes he would come out, he would literally catch about 3 or 4 volleys, and even then might not catch him, pat him down, and he would sort of squeeze the ball a bit, look at the goalie coach and go, that's me done. And the goalie coach would go, cool, and he would just walk in. Because it was all about Saturday, it was all in his head, and he just knew what he was doing.
And no moment is more perfect for showing his goalkeeping ability than in the penalty shootout of the 2008 Champions League final, where Van der Sar made the game-winning save against Nicolas Anelka, once more lifting the Champions League trophy at 38 years old. And his time with United would just further continue to pile up his trophy cabinet. While United did reach the Champions League final 2 times more, unfortunately, not even his goalkeeping was enough to hold back a prime Pep Guardiola-led Barcelona. And although his 2009 didn't have the Champions League as the cherry on top of the cake, 21 clean sheets and setting 2 world records, on top of lifting his 3rd Premier League title and winning every goalkeeping award there was, is nothing short of legendary. And though he would retire football soon after that Champions League final loss in 2011, he was undoubtedly a massive part of that dominant Man United era. 4 Premier League titles, 3 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, and winning the Champions League final with 3 final appearances, along with records that haven't been close to touched, is nothing short but expected of an all-time great goalkeeper. Plus, coming out of retirement at 45 for a single match for your boyhood club, all while still managing to stop a penalty, only further adds to the levels of his goalkeeping class. So whenever you talk about the greatest goalkeepers of the game, I hope that you won't ever forget that Edwin Van der Sar was a beast.